Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi, and today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 107. Erin Blanchfield versus Maycee Barber, and my friends, it's going down next Saturday at the UFC Apex Live in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got two top 5 contenders, possibly fighting for a title shot. I know my girl Natalia Silva might have something to say about that, but with Valentina defeating Manon Fiorot, we got this matchup here between Blanchfield and Barber. You know, in Atlanta, we got Rose Namajunas and Miranda Maverick, which I don't think is in the conversation, you know, considering the fact that Erin Blanchfield beat both Rose and Maverick, and Barber also beat Maverick, controversial or not. So yeah, so listen guys, we're going to break down a few key fights that I really want to talk about from this upcoming Vegas 107 card. And then we're going to recap last week's card between, you know, Michael Morales schooling Gilbert Burns and Mayron Santos coming through as a minus 130 favorite when he closed around minus 200. So lots to talk about. Without further ado, let's get right down to business, because in this main event, Erin Blanchfield, she's 13-2, taking on Maycee Barber, who's 14-2. And currently they got it. Erin Blanchfield minus 190. The comeback on Maycee Barber is plus 165. So amazing fight for a variety of reasons. First of all, both these young ladies, and I mean young, you know, Erin Blanchfield born in 1999, Maycee Barber born in 1998. Like, they're kids that are making names for themselves emphatically. You know, with Maycee Barber, she brings a certain physicality to the table. And, you know, if you're prone to break in fights, if you can be bullied, my God, is she going to do that? I mean, watch that Julian Robertson fight. When Julian couldn't get her takedowns, Maycee corralled her against the fence and just started teeing off on her in devastating fashion. And on the other side, with Erin Blanchfield, man, she is absolutely relentless. I think one of my favorite things about Erin Blanchfield is that she can put up the striking numbers we like. I mean, she's put up over 100, 20 significant strikes, like 3 separate times, including that second to last fight against Manon Fiorot. She landed 130 significant strikes. Against Rose Namajunas, 110 significant strikes. In the UFC debut against Alpar, 120 significant strikes. That is very good, especially when you consider that her forte is her grappling. So what I'm trying to say there is, if for whatever reason she can't get her takedowns, or she can do all kinds of things where she takes your back from standing, she'll jump guillotine, like she'll do all kinds of things to take the fight exactly where she wants it to. But what makes this interesting is the physicality of Maycee Barber. You know, Maycee Barber is used to going out there and bullying girls, and if like you can be bullied or you can be broken, like, man, I really wanted to see Maycee Barber versus Rose Namajunas. I felt like that was a great fight for Maycee Barber, because we know Rose can be bullied, we know Rose can be broken, whereas with Erin Blanchfield, it's a little different. Like that fight against Manon Fiorot, where she lost 50-45. She lost every single round. There was like zero quit in Erin whatsoever. The very next fight against Rose Namajunas, those first 2 rounds, you know, Rose Namajunas, when she's fresh, man, she's got serious hands. And when it was time to dig deep in those 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, that's exactly what Erin Blanchfield did. So she's got the heart of a lion. And I can say similar things about Maycee Barber. The only difference here is that since I don't think Blanchfield is, breakable, or, that there's any questions about her heart or her spirit, I think that she's going to be able to actually frustrate someone like Maycee Barber, just in the sense that you hit Erin Blanchfield with your hardest shot, and Erin Blanchfield is not going to start to cower away and start to, the fight's going to, start to dwindle away from her. That's not going to happen. With her, it's like, oh yeah, bitch, you want to hit me with that? Like, now it's my turn. And Erin's relentless. So I think this could be a spot where Maycee Barber is highly frustrated by what Blanchfield brings to the table. And my proof of that is this. So Erin Blanchfield has landed 14 takedowns in her UFC career. Now, if we were dealing with an opponent that had, tremendous takedown defense, that wouldn't really matter. But guys, Maycee Barber, as much as I respect her, listen to this. She's been taken down 15 times in her UFC career, including against people that have nowhere near the grappling credentials of an Erin Blanchfield. I'm talking about Andrea Lee coming out here and taking her down 5 times. And what was crazy about that was that fight could have gone either way. That fight was in Texas. So thank God, the corrupt Texas judges, they let Maycee Barber get that dub there. But man, that was kind of alarming. Now granted, that was 2 years ago. Since that point, I really liked the performance she put on against Amanda Hebosh. Just put it on her. And like I said, if you start to slow down against someone like Maycee Barber, if there's a chin issue, if there's a toughness concern, if your heart is in question, I mean, Maycee Barber is going to put it on you. The thing is that none of those apply to Erin Blanchfield whatsoever. She's willing to go to the bitter end, and I think she's going to get takedowns along the the way. Like I know MMA math, this and that, but like if Andrea Lee can take you down 5 times, and I'm talking about that version of Andrea Lee, I'm not talking about no prime Andrea Lee. I'm pretty confident that Erin Blanchfield can take you down too. Now, obviously, I don't think it's going to be a one takedown and the fight is over shortly after situation. I would never disrespect Maycee Barber like that. Like you saw in Maycee Barber's fight with Roxanne Modafferi, where she had like a torn ACL, like she still didn't quit, you know? So I don't expect her to quit unless like the choke is fully locked in. I think it's going to be an honest fight with some back and forth, but I just think that Erin Blanchfield is going to badly frustrate Maycee Barber. It's like Maycee Barber is going to get off on some shot standing, then she's going to get taken down at like the absolute worst time, and like you'll see that Maycee Barber still wants to be in there, still wants to deliver damage, and still wants to come back to win, but she's like outmatched on the mat, and you're going to see a lot of visible frustration from her. So for all those reasons, I'm gonna go with Erin Blanchfield to come out here, get this win, and possibly get a title shot. And one last thing, I like that Erin Blanchfield has that 5-round experience under her belt, went those 5 rounds with Manon, and even though it didn't go her way, you saw 0 quit in her whatsoever. Not to mention Maycee Barber is not a fluid, nuanced striker like Manon Fiorot, not even close. Maycee Barber's more of a brute. And you can say similar things about Erin, but Erin's technique is better. So that's what I think the difference is, man. So yeah, I'm going Erin Blanchfield here to defeat Maycee Barber in the main event next Saturday night in Vegas. So co-main event of the evening in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Mateusz Gamrot, he's 24-3, taking on Ľudovít Klein, who's 23-4-1. And currently they got it Mateusz Gamrot -135. The comeback on Ľudovít Klein is +115. I think this is an incredible fight, and I have a feeling people are going to be very divided on this fight. But guess what, guys? I will let you know when I'm on the fence about something, when I don't really have a strong take, and I will also let you know when I'm going to plant my flag on something and give you a controversial hot take. I don't know if that's the case, but again, guys, remember, I'm recording this on Monday, not even on fight week, the week before fight week. I'm coming out here early, giving some thoughts. So my thoughts could change as we watch more tape, as we gather more info. But as of right here, right now, these are my thoughts on the Mateusz Gamrot versus Ľudovít Klein. So currently, I don't know if I mentioned the odds, but they got a Mateusz Gamrot -135. The comeback on Ľudovít Klein is +115. I've been saying for a while that I think Gamrot is on a decline. I thought that Gamrot's peak form was when he fought Arman Tsarukyan in 2022. Now, my friends, it's been 3 years since then. And the thing about it is I really have not seen any evolution in Gamrot's game whatsoever. Name me the evolution in his game, because I can tell you exactly what his game is right here, right now in half the battle. Mateusz Gamrot game is that kind of low single takedown that he likes to go for. That low single, which you don't often see in MMA. You'll see it in college wrestling, but you don't often see it in MMA. I mean, one example I can think of, and this was like an ultra mismatch, was Randy Couture versus James Toney. I believe that was at UFC 118 in Boston, the night that Frankie Edgar defended his belt against BJ Penn and dominated him 50-45. We actually talked about it last week during the Sodiq Yussuff breakdown. What evolution have we seen from Gamrot since the Tsarukyan fight? That fight was unbelievable. But since then, I mean, let's talk about this for a second. Gamrot's been dropped in 4 of his last 6 fights and has been dropped 5 times overall in his UFC career, including against guys like Guramku Tatuladze, who had a losing UFC record, wasn't even a 500 fighter and got cut from the UFC. Guys like that are coming out here and dropping Gamrot. And like I said, Gamrot only has, one way of fighting, which I respect. He's true to himself, that low single game, amazing scrambles, but the hands, serviceable, but his hands are nothing special. But like I said, he's been getting dropped almost every single fight. There's no plan B. Now he's 35, 36. I just don't see the trajectory to the top with Mateusz Gamrot. But one thing I want to give him credit for is that Mateusz Gamrot has 10 fights in the UFC. He's taken down all 10 of his UFC opponents. And to take it a step further, this man has landed 43 takedowns in 10 UFC fights. Very, very impressive by Mateusz Gamrot. But on the other side, his opponent, Ľudovít Klein, also has 10 UFC fights, and he's got 91% takedown defense spanning those 10 UFC fights. That makes this very, very intriguing. Kind of like we were talking about with that main event where Blanchfield landed 14 takedowns and Barber Barber's been taken down 15 times. Well, here it's a little different because Gamrot's taken down all his opponents and 43 takedowns to be exact. And Klein has 10 UFC fights and has 91% takedown defense. That makes it very intriguing for me. And I like the current form of Ľudovít Klein. He's a guy that had to pay his dues. You know, he came up from featherweight, moved up to lightweight. He hasn't lost a fight at lightweight yet. I know there was some controversy in that Jai Herbert fight, but like people bringing up the Jai Herbert fight and like the Roosevelt Roberts fight, like what the hell does that have to do with Gamrot, guys? Like, is Gamrot like a 6'2" black guy? No, Gamrot's like a 5'9" low single wrestler. Like he fights nothing like those guys, you know? Like Ľudovít Klein had to close distance against those guys. He's not gonna have to close distance here. He's gonna be the one keeping it on the outside. Sprawl and brawl, big explosive head kicks. Now Ľudovít doesn't have the biggest volume in the world, but what he does have is when he lets things go, boy, does he let it go. He's super fast twitch, super explosive. You see the physique. I mean, as you guys know, I'm still on the waiting list to get an appointment with Ľudovít Klein's doctor. So, you know, whenever I get the call, I'm gonna hit him up and you're gonna be seeing some TRT Barney-esque qualities from myself. But with that being said, guys, just stylistically speaking, I really think that Ľudovít Klein is gonna be able to stuff these takedowns and bust Mateusz Gamrot up on the feet. You know, every year at the very beginning of the year, I do a boldest prediction show with Liam Picks Fights, and I predicted that in 2025, Mateusz Gamrot was going to take his first KO loss. You know, this guy's never been finished, but like I said, he's been dropped like 5 times in the UFC, and he's fighting a guy named Mr. Highlight, who, when he's on his game, you know, I know he was kind of hit and miss at first when he came to the UFC, but now he's really like turning into top form, and he's earned the opportunity to come out here and get this chance against Gamrot. I mean, when you beat Mason Jones the way he did, when you beat Ignacio Bahamondes the way he did, when you school Thiago Moises the way he did, those are the fights you get. Those are the wins you need to get to earn that opportunity against, you know, kind of at this point, a gatekeeper to the top 10 in Mateusz Gamrot. I don't consider Gamrot a contender. I don't think Gamrot's a threat to the title, but I absolutely think you need to be on a certain level to beat Gamrot, and that if you're not a top 10 guy, Gamrot's going to expose that, of course. But I think that stylistically speaking, Ľudovít Klein's going to be able to stuff the majority of the takedowns. Of course, he'll get taken down once or twice, but I think he'll be able to get back up and from there land the damage in the fight. And one more thing I want to say, another example of Gamrot kind of being on a decline, watch that Dan Hooker fight. Everybody that's been watching the sport knows that if you're a real contender, you walk through Dan Hooker. You don't have no 50-50 fight with Dan Hooker if you're a real contender. I mean, that's just the bottom line. When Arnold Allen fought Dan Hooker, I mean, Arnold Allen went like, you know, full Cody Garbrandt and won. You know what I'm saying? Like Islam fought Dan Hooker. He just ran through him in the first round like it was nothing. When Yair Rodriguez fought Dan Hooker, he put a 3-round clinic on him and was trying all kinds of unorthodox, like somersault kicks and ridiculous stuff. So what I'm saying is that real contenders style on Dan Hooker. Real contenders don't have controversial 50-50 fights with Dan Hooker. That's a clear sign Gamrot's on a decline. And I think Ľudovít Klein is catching him at a great time. And more importantly than any of that, they're giving me dog odds. It's not like I got to pay minus 170 on Klein. I get to pay dog odds on the guy that's on the up, taking on someone who's on his way out. And I know Gamrot has so much respect because of his past career in KSW. And, you know, the guy demands respect, the way he talks, the way he carries himself, and the way he fights. But I'm not going to let any of that impact how I view his current form. And I think he's on the decline. I think Ľudovít Klein's catching him at a great time. So for that reason, give me Ľudovít Klein to come out here, get the biggest win of his career, enter the top 10, and cash this underdog bet. So, guys, like I said, I'm not going to cover this whole Vegas 107 card right now. I'm going to do all that, you know, next week like we always do. I'm going to go live Wednesday. Not this Wednesday, next Wednesday with a guest. Well, actually with 2 guests this time. I think y'all will be a little bit less critical of my guest next week. Hey, man, shout out to my boy Scrap. He took that shit on 24-hour notice when big names backed out and turned me down. So shout out to my boy. And I guarantee you this, you know, because he's a college kid, bro. If I give Scrap the call to come back on my show in a year or 2, I promise you, he's gonna, like, this was a good learning experience for him. Like, the kid, like, messaged me and apologized, which, like, he doesn't owe me an apology at all. He was thinking that he made me look bad. Dude, you didn't make me look bad at all. In fact, I actually really enjoyed our conversation. You know, everyone has to start somewhere. Like, not everyone comes into the sport with ridiculous knowledge, let alone the confidence to speak in front of a camera. So big respect to my boy Scrap. And I know for a fact, like I said, when I call this kid back in a year or 2, he's going to come in here prepared like a brand new man. And who knows, he might have even made a big name for himself by then. So keep up the good work. And even if you guys think that he talked like a casual, which I admit, you know, I thought he'd know a little bit more going into it, but that's irrelevant. I gave out great fucking info. I gave out got that Mairon Santos free bet. You know what I'm saying? Like, so y'all get, I'm not going to give the fans shit because I think it's important for the kid that he took a little bit of heat. Like it is important because you got to understand how people truly are. And like, even me, I'll go on a show, you know, with my ridiculous MMA knowledge, and like people will find a reason to pick me apart, find a reason to criticize me. Oh, he's arrogant. Oh, he's trying to big brother Klein. Oh, he's trying to do this and that. It's like, you can't win with people. So even had this kid come into the show with every detail of every fighter, people still would have found a reason to pick him apart. So it is what it is. But the bottom line, he wasn't boring and he wasn't annoying. So I thought he carried himself well, and I thoroughly enjoyed the show. And it was a good learning experience for the kid. And I'm happy to give back to someone when I know a lot of people have done a lot of things for me. So that's what I got to say regarding that. Next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Zach Reese. He's 8-2, taking on Dusko Todorovic, who's 12-5 currently. They got it. Zach Reese minus 275. The comeback on Dusko Todorovic is plus 235. This is obviously a very volatile fight because both these guys coming off brutal knockout losses. Most of their wins are finishes. Zach Reese is like a kind of a 6'5" country boy, and he's been getting some nice finishes, but man, when he's on the receiving end of a finish, it's brutal. Like I thought that Dusko's knockout losses are brutal, but Zach Reese's are even worse because he like goes out stiff, out cold, like convulsing on the canvas, and both times have been really bad against Cody Brundage and against Azamat Bekoyev, who, you know, Bekoyev's a stud, obviously, but man, like all those shots and some of them to the back of the head too, and now you're coming back so soon. And with Dusko, man, I think Dusko's talented. I really do. It's just there's certain things like, dude, he fights with his hands down and his chin up in the air, and he hasn't fixed that. And now he's been riddled with injuries. Now his confidence is kind of lower. But at Dusko's best, I mean, this guy knocked out Michel Pereira on his regional scene. This guy's ground and pound is devastating. That ground and pound against Daquan Townsend and against Maki Pitolo, I was like, damn, even against Jordan Wright, like this dude Dusko, if he can get on top of Zach Reese, I think he can knock out Zach Reese viciously. It's just at range, that's where I'm worried. I mean, what are we talking about here in terms of reach advantage and whatnot? I know the height advantage is not like something to scoff at. Okay, it says 6'4" versus 6'1", but I actually think it's more like 6'5" versus 5'11". I know that sounds crazy, but that's what I think. And then it says the reach is 77 to 74. Okay, so a little 3-inch reach advantage, but I think the height advantage is more than they're saying. But dude, then I see guys like that Jose Medina guy who might literally be, again, I don't want to be disrespectful, but you guys know what I was about to say. That Jose Medina guy took down Zach Reese. And I'm just saying, if that guy can take you down, Dusko can take you down. And Dusko's one great quality is his ground and pound. Man, so at distance, yeah, I kind of favor Zach Reese, but up close and on the ground, I think that Dusko can come out here and pound this guy out. And guys, when we're talking about minus 275 and plus 235, honestly, guys, I think this is a dog or pass situation. Like, I don't want to plant my flag because Dusko has burnt me plenty of times, but I got zero faith in Zach Reese at all. So dog or pass for right now. I'm gonna pick Dusko for the upset, but obviously not too much confidence behind it. So another one I really wanted to talk about was Andreas Gustafsson, who's 11-2, taking on Jeremiah Wells, who's 12-4-1. Currently, they got it. Andreas Gustafsson minus 150. The comeback on Jeremiah Wells is plus 130. I love this fight so much. So Jeremiah Wells comes into the UFC at 34. So he's like flat out in his prime when he came into the UFC. And man, I mean, that fight against Warley Alves and Court McGee, oh my God, the way he ran through them, the way he closes distance, like that speed, that explosiveness, I was like, damn. And then you see in that Semmelsberger fight, even though he got rocked badly in the first 2 rounds, the way he was able to close the distance and get those takedowns and like not accept no for an answer when he was getting hurt, not succumb to, you know, getting finished and just go out there and keep those explosive takedowns going. Very, very impressive. He's also, I believe, a Daniel Gracie black belt, you know, trains with the Sean Brady's, the Joe Pfeiffers, the Nursulton Ruziboev, who you saw last week, and all those guys, right? So there's some really good things going on the Jeremiah Wells side. It's just that, what was the first thing I mentioned? The first thing I mentioned was this guy made his UFC debut when he was 34. Well, now he's 38. So that fighter window is just completely closing. And yeah, you can say he's a young 38. You know, we were talking about recently with Jasmine Jastovicius, who, you know, she's 36, 37, but she's getting better every single fight. And she looks like she's moving up. She's a young 36, 37. And while Jeremiah Wells might have less, you know, MMA experience than most people his age, I do not see improvements from Jeremiah Wells. I think he is declining. I don't see any evolution in his game whatsoever. I thought that the Warley Alves fight and the Court McGee fights, that was the peak right there. Kind of like I was talking about with Gamrot, the peak was the Sarukian fight in 2022. With Jeremiah Wells, the peak was the Court McGee fight. You know, for this guy being known for being such a devastating knockout artist, he hasn't landed a knockout or a knockdown since 2022. I think he is slowing down. And in this fight, I think a lot of people expect it to be kind of like a car crash, but I kind of see it a little bit differently because I think Gustafsson Berg, Andreas, I think he's the one that's going to be going forward. This dude is like, I want to know about his bar brawling history. I want to know about this guy's street fights. Like, I bet in Sweden, like, you do not mess around with this guy. And he's got Viking roots, which is pretty nuts. Like, you don't often see guys coming into the UFC with literal Viking roots in their blood. That's what this man has. And he is an absolute dog. And what's interesting is, he's Gustafsson from Sweden. There used to be a guy named Alexander Gustafsson from Sweden. And Alexander Gustafsson's nickname was the Mauler, right? And what I find funny about that is that Alexander Gustafsson kind of had like a pretty like Dominic Cruz for light heavyweight type style. He wasn't much of a mauler. He had like fancy footwork and picked guys apart. I know he had some brutal knockouts here and there, the Glover Teixeira one and whatnot, but for the most part, Alex Gustafsson was like a mover with like I said, Dominic Cruz for 205. Whereas this Gustafsson, Andreas, his nickname is Bane, which is a badass nickname, but his nickname could also be the Mauler because that's what he does. He is a mauler. Like, as soon as the bell rings, he goes forward, gets right in your face, pins you up against the fence. And I'm not talking about no stalling, no sniffing crotch, no bullshit like that. I'm talking about dirty boxing. I'm talking about elbows to the face. I'm talking about knees to the body. And not only can this guy give it, but he can take it too. So obviously where I'm concerned is a little bit at distance. I think that Jeremiah is going to be circling on the outside, looking to blitz with big, not necessarily combinations, but just big fight ending strikes. Like circle, 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 flying knee, circle, 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 Superman punch. Circle, 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 then maybe a blitz like overhand right, left hook, stuff like that. But what I think is that Jeremiah is going to need a lot of room and space to operate, and Andreas is not going to give him that space at all. Of course, there's a chance Andreas can get caught, because anytime you have a style like him where you just get in people's faces, and like I will say for that style, his defense is pretty decent for that style in particular. Now compared to like regular, high level striking standards, maybe his defense ain't quite there, but for this kind of wall and maul style, his defense is decent, okay? But you still have to look out for certain things that Jeremiah can do. As far as Jeremiah taking down Andreas, I mean, I'm pretty sure Andreas is like a Swedish wrestling champ, and he's got a strong lower body. So maybe a takedown, but I could see Andreas popping right back up. I just see Andreas breaking Jeremiah Wells, slowing him down in that clinch, elbows to the face, knees to the body, roughnecking him a bit, and just, there's going to be a few chaotic moments along the way, but eventually I see Andreas breaking Jeremiah Wells, and Andreas Gustafsson breaks dudes' faces. Go watch that fight he had on Contender Series, man. That kid he was in there with was like 9-1 with 9 knockouts or something, or 9 finishes, and he straight up broke his face. So Andreas is mean, and he's coming in the UFC flat out in his prime too, like Jeremiah Wells did when he joined the UFC. Only difference is now Jeremiah Wells is the 38-year-old, Gustafsson's the 34, 35-year-old, and I think Gustafsson, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be grimy. It's going to be bloody, but it's going to be effective. And I think Andreas Gustafsson's going to come out here and beat Jeremiah Wells. Now, another fight I wanted to talk about was Oban Elliott, who's 12-2, taking on Ramiz Brahimaj, who's 11-5. And currently they got it. Oban Elliott minus 615. The comeback on Ramiz Brahimaj is plus 465. So I don't need to tell you that this is a good matchup for Oban Elliott. The odds tell you that. But are the odds correct or not? Because oftentimes they're not. Yes, they are. Because Ramiz Brahimaj, 11 wins. Let's do a little pop quiz trivia. I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all right now that all 11 of those wins were finishes. But here's the trivia, my friends. Y'all ready for this? So all 11 of those wins were finishes. Now the big question is, how many of those 11 wins were in the first round? 10 of them were in the first round. So this is a guy with 11 wins, 11 finishes, 10 first round finishes. And historically speaking, anytime he's gone past the first round in the UFC, not only has he lost, but stuff has fallen apart dramatically. Now props to him for going out there and getting Mickey Gall out of there. You love to see it, but against Oban Elliott, I know that at the beginning of Oban Elliott's UFC career, and even now maybe there's some defensive liabilities that you need to look out for, but man, I like a lot about him. I think he's very smart. I think that his takedown defense, he's got some real natural instincts for takedown defense. Obviously the striking defense could use a little work, but now I think that his hands are starting to get a bit cleaner too. I mean, like obviously MMA math ain't the be all end all, but listen, he fought this dude named Basil Hafez. A lot of people, not me, but a lot of other people thought that Basil Hafez arguably beat the current UFC welterweight champion Jack Della Maddalena. Now I think that's ultra fake news. I think maybe you give Basil Hafez a round at most in that fight, but all the damage was clearly caused by Jack, but it was still a split decision. Whereas Oban goes out there and schools Basil Hafez and knocks him the you-know-what out. So I love the direction he's heading in. And you know what else I love? I love the way they're matching him up. Ramiz Brahimaj is the perfect next test for Oban Elliott, man. Survive kind of I say survive, but just kind of play it safe that first round if you want to, and Ramiz will historically fade, and then you break him down the stretch. That's just the bottom line. You just got to be on your P's and Q's early. And I think the minus 615 price tag implies that he will be on his P's and Q's early. So yeah, give me Oban Elliott to come out here, continue that run, and let's see when they finally give him a real test. But for now, I love what they're doing with him, and yeah, I like that fight a lot. And give me Oban. And I want to give Ramiz credit for getting back on track against Mickey Gall, because if he had not won there, that would have been it, because he had some pretty abysmal performances. And when I say abysmal, that's not me being cute or being funny. When I say abysmal, this is what I mean. This man had a 3-round fight with Themba Gorimbo, 3-round fight. 15 minutes, 5-minute rounds. I know you know all this. Guess how many significant strikes Ramiz landed in 3 rounds against Themba? 3 significant strikes in 3 rounds against Themba. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, that's unacceptable at the UFC level. That's unacceptable at any fighting level. And against Oban Elliott, I can tell you right here, right now, that shit will not fly, my friend. So Ramiz better get it done early, or he's unfortunately screwed. And one more credit to Ramiz. You know, the guy overcame like I think he had like, don't quote me on it, but like a brain tumor or something, and he overcame that and is in the UFC, you know, winning fights and has stuck around for a hot minute, right? Like, how long has my boy been in the UFC since 2020, dude? You've been in the UFC half a decade, my man. Like, big respect. Now, the last fight I want to talk about is in the lightweight division between Marquel Mederos. He's 10-1, taking on Bolaji Oki, who's 9-2. Currently, they got it. Bolaji Oki minus 185. The comeback on Marquel Mederos is plus 160. So this is one where I disagree with the odds. I think this is a dog or pass situation, and I'm trying to figure out how they got to these odds. Like, I feel like sometimes when you see someone with Bolaji Oki's physique, kind of like with Sodiq Yusuff's physique, you can overblow their actual skills. Now with Sodiq Yussuff, that wasn't the case, because like he was an incredible fighter until he was riddled with just insane injuries, and he just never came back, you know, the same. It was what it was, but he was an amazing fighter at one point. Whereas Bolaji Oki's been a green developing guy this whole time. Yeah, he looks scary, and you know, what else has he got? Like, he's still like figuring things out. Whereas this kid, Mederos, dude, Mederos has great takedown defense. He's a methodical striker. He might not be as explosive and fast twitch as Bolaji Oki, but he's methodical. I like that he moved to the MMA lab, and I like his strike selection. That knee he hit on that Russian on Contender Series was serious, my man. And something else that I really like about Marquel Mederos, if you watch that Austin Harmless Hubbard fight, you know, people are going to hold it against him. Oh my God, he went to split decision with Harmless Hubbard. Guys, Harmless Hubbard is a 10-fight UFC vet, 12 if you include his Ultimate Fighter fights. That was Marquel Mederos' second UFC fight. Like, guys, the experience counts for a lot in this sport. Whereas Bolaji Oki, now you're fighting a fellow guy that's got 2 UFC fights like you, who's got the exact same amount of pro fights as you. Like, the experience, there's no experience gap. It's like, it's an evenly matched fight. Like, even when you look at the volume, I know if you just look at strikes landed per minute, it says that Bolaji Oki has him covered there. But if you look deeper into that, my friends, and you actually look at the actual amount of strikes that the most amount of strikes Bolaji's ever landed in a fight was, you know, 60 significant against Timmy Kawamba. I mean, Marquel did the same thing against Landon Quinones. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's like, there's no big volume edge or gap anywhere on this fight. Where's Bolaji Oki's edge to make him minus 185? Like, even if you want to talk, oh, he's athletic and explosive, is he that much more athletic and explosive than Marquel Mederos? Marquel Mederos ain't no skinny white boy. Like, Marquel Mederos is an athlete too, man. I just see this being like a close split decision type fight. I mean, obviously anyone can get caught, but like, guys, when I view this as like, I don't think someone has this significant edge. Why are we talking minus 185 plus 160? So maybe next week on Wednesday, I'll have a different opinion. But as of right now, I think this is dog or pass. And I'm going to go ahead and pick Marquel Mederos for the upset there. Now, let's talk about this last card. So UFC Vegas 106. So Michael Morales just went out there. It wasn't even a fight. He smoked Gilbert Burns. And like, leading into the fight, there were all these pictures of Gilbert Burns' physique, you know, currently now, as opposed to the Brady fight. Oh, he looked in so much better shape. He's been harvesting the Garden of Life fruits and vegetables. It made no difference whatsoever. Michael Morales, too long, too athletic. And I feel like Michael Morales is one of these guys that, like, you could have played in a different sport. He could have been like a baseball player. Like, he's a freak athlete. I think y'all know the fight I want to see. And the fight I want to see is Michael Morales versus Ian Gary. Michael Morales has been asking for it. Ian Gary, I'm not ready to see this guy in a title shot. Like, he's winning fights, but like, there's so many sketchy moments in those fights. And I want to see him and Michael Morales. maybe the winner of that get a title shot. For Gilbert Durinho, I personally think he should retire, like for sure. I think he is done. But you know, a guy like that is so goddamn tough that he won't know when to say when. So what I do think is let's pull up the rankings right now, see who our next up and coming prospect is at welterweight that we need to test. So who needs the Gilbert Burns test? I mean, the only reason we have to talk in these terms, guys, is because Gilbert Burns is holding a number 8 spot hostage in the world. And you guys obviously know Gilbert Burns is no longer a top 10 guy, but he's holding a top 10 spot hostage. And so is Colby Covington. What the fuck? Like, dude, what? So you know, let Carlos Prates take out Gilbert Burns. You know what I would actually like? I'd like to see someone like Randy Brown, who has been paying his dues for so many years and has never gotten that big opportunity. Actually, he's gotten many opportunities, but I'm saying like right now, Randy Brown would be catching Gilbert at an incredible time. And this could finally get Randy Brown into the rankings. Let's see Randy Brown get that Gilbert Durinho test. I mean, unless y'all want to see Carlos Prates starch him, that wouldn't be fair. But at least like Randy Brown's unranked and like, that's a step down on paper for Gilbert, but it's not actually a step down in reality. So let's see Gilbert Burns versus Randy Brown. Give Randy Brown his opportunity to try to break into the top 15. Mayron Santos and Sodiq Yussuff, man, I was so happy about this. Y'all know that this was my play of the week, man. I took a big stance on this one, and Mayron Santos made me very happy. And it's tough when you're betting against some of your favorite fighters like Sodiq Yussuff, who not only do I enjoy watching him fight so much and his prime form, I really thought that this guy was going to make it to the top 5. And, you know, he's even been on the show twice. Such a class act, someone so easy to root for, but the fight game is the fight game. And Mayron Santos, you know, he might not look like the most like physically imposing guy, but there's like some real special qualities to his striking. And he's only 24 years old. And like, I've seen people, you know, catch Sodiq or do certain things to him, but like usually Sodiq's involved in like an honest fight, right, where he has moments and whatnot. Mayron Santos just picked him apart for 3 straight rounds. Like I'm watching this fight with money on the line, and like I'm not even like sweating. Like normally I was thinking going into this, like, look, it's Sodiq Yussuff. The first like couple minutes, we're gonna have to weather a serious freaking storm, and like we might get knocked out. I mean, I even said that we might get knocked out here, you know, Mayron Santos might get knocked out. I say we because I fucking bet money on him. Don't try to pull the, you know, the Drake. Oh, he thinks he's part of the team. No, I don't think I'm part of the team, but I am Team Santos because I risked a good chunk of change on him for that night. You know what I'm saying? But I thought that Mayron Santos was going to have to overcome adversity. I thought it was going to be a sketchy first round. Then Mayron takes over after that. Dude, it was like smooth sailing from the jump. It was like target practice. I don't think Sodiq Yussuff even landed a clean punch on Mayron Santos. And man, it's bright skies for Mayron Santos. So as far as what's next for him, he needs to make a decision. Does he want to stay at 55s or does he want to go back down to 45s? My unsolicited advice, kid, stay at 55s. I mean, you blew up to 185 like the day after the fight, like, and you're 24 years old now. You can get away with it. How much longer can you get away with it? I say you move up to 55s. And as far as who they match him up with, let Mayron Santos take out Alexander Hernandez or something. You know, a decent name. You just beat Sodiq Yussuff, who's also a decent name. Go knock out Alexander Hernandez. Go make him quit. So I want to see Mayron Santos versus Alexander Hernandez. Now, Nursulton Ruziboev defeated Dustin Stoltzfus via unanimous decision. I got to be honest, I only saw bits and pieces of this fight because this is when our food arrived. But what I could see was that it was a back and forth scrap that like came down to the wire. Could have, you know, some people thought it could have went either way. I think that Nursulton just slightly did a bit more from what I could see, but it was a good fight. Nursulton asked for Bo Nickel. Kid, you want Bo Nickel? We'll give you Bo Nickel. Honestly, I don't know if they'll give him Bo Nickel, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. You know, big experience gap, but you know that Bo Nickel's got a big wrestling advantage there, and Joaquin Buckley laid the blueprint. Could Bo Nickel follow it? Who knows? Maybe get that fight back. So Melquizael Costa and Julian Erosa went out there and put on the fight of the night, and it was truly a pleasure to watch. And now that Melquizael Costa is starting to feel comfortable inside the octagon, now he feels like he truly belongs, because this is a guy that came into the UFC with a good amount of sufficient experience, man. It's not like he came in here 5-0, but you know, he got thrown in there with tough guys. You know, Thiago Moises up a weight class, and Steve Garcia, who's a literal knockout machine. But ever since then, man, I love the turnaround, and I love the consecutive wins that he's been putting together against real guys, man. I mean, Melquizael Costa's coming out here like, you have to be on a certain level to beat Andre Fili, and usually like everyone's like going like, if you don't knock out Fili, you're going to like a split decision with Fili, and like Melquizael Costa like taps him out in the first round. You know what I'm saying? You don't just tap out Fili in the first round. It took Max Holloway 3 rounds to tap out Andre Fili, and then to beat Christian Rodriguez in Mexico City Elevation. And you know, everyone's big criticism is he gassed in round 3 against a cardio machine in Mexico. That's your big criticism. I mean, dude, you don't just outdog, Christian Rodriguez for the first 2 rounds. And yeah, Melquizael did great there. And then here, if there was a question about his cardio, because we mentioned in Mexico City, and that 3rd round, the output really waned. Well, this time in non-Mexico City elevation, and my boy Costa comes out here, lands over 100 significant strikes in 3 rounds, which is, his personal most in his UFC career. So I love the direction Melquizael Costa is trending in. And in fact, let's pull up the rankings right now, because I think he's earned a top 15 shot. So Steve Garcia is about to get Calvin Kattar out the top 15. So some other vulnerable opponents that are in the top 15 that we could possibly give to Melquizael Costa. Damn, the top 15 is pretty fucking stacked. Do y'all think Melquizael Costa is ready for the Dan Ige test? Or do you think it's like one more fight and then a top 15 opponent? But I wouldn't mind seeing Melquizael Costa versus Dan Ige. I think that Dan Ige is number 14. Like I'd like the Kattar fight, but like I said, Steve Garcia is about to take Kattar out. So I say we see if Melquizael Costa is ready for the Dan Ige test, and tell me that fight wouldn't be badass. So that's the one to make. Now, oh man, this was good. Gabe Green tapping out Mateusz Camilo. Listen, guys, did I not tell you in my breakdown that a white dude with dreadlocks tapped out Camilo? My weed dealer tapped out Camilo. I was like, can I get a quarter after the fight, man? But like, yeah, Camilo was doing good and then he fell apart, which is like how he lost all his other fights. But he's still young, and I think that go back to the drawing board, learn from it. Maybe you were super nervous about that debut. Maybe you gassed your legs out from that triangle attempt, whatever the case was. But you can't gas against someone like Gabe Green, who put up insane output at 70s, now dropping down to 55s. He looks like a big 55. So I was really happy for Gabe Green here. And if you check out Parlay Madness with my boy James Blissett, I went on there and I suggested, maybe looking at Gabe Green by submission, considering my weed dealer tapped Mateusz Camilo out. And it's crazy that it actually came to fruition. So yeah, we'll see what's next. But as far as Gabe Green, I say keep testing him against, keep testing up and coming prospects against Gabe Green. Jared Gordon, oh man, he knocked Thiago Moises out. It was like that scene in Friday. You got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? It was like that scene. You got knocked the fuck out. Man, that was brutal. And it had to have felt good for Jared Gordon, considering he's been on the short end of the stick on a couple split decisions that I thought the Nasrat one for sure should have gone his way. I know people think the Patty one was like the worst fight, the worst decision they've ever seen, but I still think that was a very close 50-50 fight. But regardless, one thing I will not debate, Jared Gordon gave Patty his toughest UFC test. And I think Jared's earned the opportunity to test himself against someone in the top 15. So what I'm thinking, damn, this fucking top 15 is a murderer's row these days. Oh my God. Okay, maybe maybe not the top 15, but let me pull up the roster. So as far as lightweight, right, and getting Jared Gordon, that proper next test. So what actually might be kind of fun? This isn't going to happen because I want to see Jeremy Stevens fight like Conor McGregor or Michael Chandler. But you could rematch Jared Gordon and Bobby Green because they had a controversial ending to their fight. You could do Jared Gordon and Drew Dober. And one more suggestion. You could do Jared Gordon versus Esteban Ribovics. Tell me that would not be an all-out war. So, yeah, I think we got some options for Jared Flash Gordon, and you got to feel happy for him getting such an emphatic result. It took Islam Makhachev 4 rounds to finish this guy. It took Jared Flash Gordon under 4 minutes to do it. So Yadier Del Valle went out there and just ran through Connor Matthews. Shout out to my boy James Blissett calling that first-round sub for Yadier Del Valle. And, yeah, look, he's a physical guy. He's a brute, but, he's still early in his career. You know what? Let's see a prospect showdown. Let's see Jose Delgado versus Yadier Del Valle. Both these guys are 1-0 in the UFC. They both ran through Connor Matthews, and they both got very bright futures. Let's see Jose Delgado versus Yadier Del Valle. Let's see who the better prospect is. I guarantee you violence there. So Luana Santos defeated Tainara Lisboa, and man, it was just that physicality that was so much, those judo throws, and to get the first ever key lock submission win in women's MMA history, man, beautiful job by Luana Santos. Now, as far as the rankings in that division are concerned, I think there's a few ways you can go with Luana Santos. I wouldn't mind personally seeing Luana Santos in there, with like a former champion like Miesha Tate. Or you can see Luana Santos test herself against a Chelsea Chandler, a Jocelyn Edwards, a Nora Cornole, Carl Hosa, I mean, you know that Carl Hosa loves dropping the ball in big fights. Get Luana Santos in the top 10 against Carl Hosa. I'm thinking Chelsea Chandler, Jocelyn Edwards, Misha Tate, or Carl Hosa next for Luana Santos. And Denise Gomes, oh my God. Dude, you don't often see strawweight fighters, 115-pound women coming out here and just like knocking people the you-know-what out in devastating fashion. And I even tweeted, like the stoppage was late. I was like, what's Jason Herzog waiting for? The Messiah? I mean, it was unbelievable that he wouldn't stop that fight. And yeah, Denise Gomes, oh my God. So with her, let's look at these rankings. I think she earned a spot, you know, to test herself against someone ranked. So strawweight, let's see what we got here. I mean, listen, number 15 is Luana Pinheiro. Are you going to look me in the eye with a straight face and tell me that Denise Gomez can't come out here and smash Luana Pinheiro? How the hell is Luana Pinheiro ranked? Is this some kind of sick joke? You know? So let's see Denise Gomes versus Luana Pinheiro. But if they cut Luana Pinheiro, let's see Denise Gomes get that Tisha Torres test, the Tisha Pennington test. That's what I think she deserves next. Now, this one I was blown away by. Hyung-Sung Park just running through Carlos Hernandez. One does not simply treat Carlos Hernandez like that. Usually dudes have like honest split decision, 3-round back and forth fights with him. And this dude, Hyung-Sung Park, his nickname is Peace of Mind Park. Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on Peace of Mind Park. I wasn't quite sure coming into this fight, but now I'm sure that he's someone I want to pay attention to, because like, one does not simply run through Carlos Hernandez. I know tons of guys have beat him, but to run through him, he ran through him way easier than Tyra did. It was like sweat free. It was like nothing. It was like one takedown and the fight was over shortly after. I was blown away. Who do we want to match up this kid Hyung-Sung Park with next? Because like I was very, very impressed with that. So Hyung-Sung Park comes out there and gets that first round finish. You know what actually might be kind of fun? What about Kevin Borjas, who just beat Lazy Boy Rodriguez? Y'all want to see Hyung-Sung Park versus Kevin Borjas? You know, I think obviously that's a great fight. I think another way you could take it, how about the y'all ready for this? Tell me what y'all think about this. Tell me what y'all think about this. I know this one would be serious. How about Hyung-Sung Park versus Edgar Chairez? Tell me that is not guaranteed brutality, violence, blood. Someone's getting stopped there. I want to see Edgar Chairez versus Hyung-Sung Park. That is the fight to make. And for Carlos Hernandez, I mean, let's go test the next Asian prospect, which is, I had his name pulled up, Dong Hung Choi. He's 1-0 in the UFC. He's 9-0 overall, 26 years old. Another Korean prospect. Listen, all Hernandez does is test these Asian prospects, and now it's time to test the 9-0 Dong Hung Choi. So good luck with that kid. Well, my friends, I'm gonna get out of here. I want to thank you all so much for all your support. As you know, like I said, next week I'm gonna be back on Wednesday night live at 7 p.m. Eastern time with 2 guests. I promise y'all will be happy with these 2 guests, as long as they don't back out on me last minute. Nah, real talk. 2 first-time guests, 2 hilarious guys that y'all gonna be surprised to see on my show, but you're gonna be like, well deserved. Like, I'm happy about this. So looking forward to that. And I'm very grateful for all y'all support, especially when I did Parlay Madness with James the other day. Man, the feedback there was incredible. You know, we did a 3-hour podcast, which normally if someone keeps me on for 3 hours, I'm like, yo, like what the hell, dude? But those 3 hours like flew by, and that was truly one of the best podcasts I've ever been a part of. So to everyone that checked it out, thank you so much for all the kind words. And for everyone for last week's podcast, you know, with my boy Scrap, thank you for the kind words. And also to the people that hated, listen, man, even though that's not my style, I understand. And I thought it was a valuable lesson for the kid. So thank you all so much for all your support. You can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks, on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod, on TikTok at Half the Battle Podcast. Please smash the subscribe, the like, leave me a comment, all that stuff. Share if you feel so inclined. I am so grateful for you all. Big shout out to my producer, my artist, my friend, my business partner, Meticulous. You are the fucking man. I mean, look at this video. Y'all see this? Y'all see these thumbnails? Y'all see all these graphics? Like, dude, you're the man. Thank you so much. And the fans, I love you all very, very much. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.